Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Payson. Welcome back to everyone who has already subscribed to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews, including the one coming at you right now. Really honored to have first-time guests of the show. Anytime we have first-time guests of the show, always excited. And in this case, even more excited because Paul Dotson is currently in the Marine Reserves, which will connect to why he's been away from MMA a couple years. But he's got a fight in 7 days, a week's time at Brawl in the Burgh 20 for 247 Fighting Championships, February 24th from the Murraysville Sports Zone Arena. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
I appreciate you coming on the show. I said this is your first time. I really think it is. I know you fought twice for 247. It's been a couple of years ago. So I appreciate you coming back on. Thanks for what you're doing in the Marines. What's the last 2 years been like while you've been away from MMA due to your service?
So after my last fight in April of 22, I was still in high school. So I went straight to the Marine Corps out of high school. Went to basic, did all that. And then I went to infantry school, and that kept me until about January of last year. I was blessed to go to the opportunity to go to Scout Sniper Indoc in March, went to Indoc, passed, and then I went to pre-Scout Sniper School in April. After I passed that, I basically got coursed out, which is in the Marine Corps. You get to go to a couple cool courses. Like I went to my annual training, and then I went to NARQ, which is our annual rifle qualification. So I got to learn and then teach that over in Indianapolis for about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and kept me out of the game because I didn't want to just chop up my training, if that makes sense. Like I was home for 2 weeks, gone for 4, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense to train for 2 weeks and be gone. But I got fully back in November to just doing the 1 weekend a month stuff as most reservists do. So now I'm like fully back, and I got the itch again to fight. I wanted to train, I wanted to fight. I missed being in there.
Well, it's great that you're able to now do both, given the fact that the reserve schedule will work for you. Your last fight that you mentioned in April of 22 was for 247, and you got a great first round TKO win. What was that like for you? If you can remember back, that was obviously pre-enlistment. You've had a lot go on in between, but what was that like for you? And what's your development been like at the academy with Shaka and Death Star and all those guys since you've gotten back from the Marines?
So looking back on that last fight, I saw a lot of improvement. I think you were at my very first fight too at Flood City Fight Night. And I think you're at both. I think you saw a lot of improvement because those fights were only, I think, 3 or 4 months apart. And I switched gyms from Andrews to the Academy, and there was a whole bunch of improvement. Not talking bad about any gym, but like I went to the Academy and immediately my game just jumped levels, like crazy levels. And that's all due to like Kama, Jake Schilling, John DeJesus, Chaka, Justin Patton, like all those dudes helped me rise levels. Same with like the other amateurs there too, Craig and Eddie, who are also on this card, by the way.
Yeah.
So they just helped me jump levels, and I felt way more confident going in there than the first time. And I think it showed a little bit. Like it was honestly a really fun fight, you know. Anytime you get a knockout, it's a fun fight. So
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, you're going to be one of 3 fighters out of the academy fighting. And obviously, Eddie's fighting for a championship, amateur championship against another stud. That's a huge matchup. And I just did an interview. People can watch this and then jump over on the channel and watch Craig Perry's interview. Just did that earlier today. But yeah, I mean, you guys have a lot of great fighters. Craig's story is really special in the sense that he started out 0-3 and is now on a 2-0 run going up against a really tough guy, an advanced amateur. For you, you've already seen progress between your first 2 fights, and now that's been 2 years ago. You clearly picked up a lot of skills in the Marines that while you won't, have a weapon and you won't be sniping in there, what do you think like the discipline and the training, the fact that even in the Marines, you've been taking in a lot of high level skill training, even though it wasn't mixed martial arts. Do you think that's helped your mental game at all coming into this fight?
100%. I definitely matured a lot, obviously, since being in high school, my last fight. I matured a lot, and it's helped me learn a lot more. Because the way the Marine Corps does stuff, it's not exactly the smartest way, it's the toughest way. So when we would box, right, all the time. And for dudes that didn't know how to box, it was immediately like spar, spar, spar. So I take some of these like dudes aside and I teach them like just little things, right? Like how to jab right, stuff like that. So I've never been like fully out of the game, if that makes sense. But I was always like training in the Marine Corps is always super fun because like I get to teach other people I work with every day. It's like going to like your office job and then teaching other people how to like shoot a double leg. It's fun. So it was cool teaching in the Marine Corps. I definitely learned a lot of mental toughness, especially while in pre-sniper school. It was tough. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, congratulations on passing pre-sniper school. Does that mean at some point in the future you'll have sniper school for you, or do they not do that when you're in reserves? I know that there's a difference in what MOS is, although that's the
Mm.
Army term, not the Marine term for what your skill set is based on active or reserved, or do you have sniper school in the future?
So the Marine Corps actually just got rid of their scout sniper school. So
Oh
yeah,
no!
I know. I know it's rough funding, a couple other political stuff, made it go away. The Army still has a sniper program though, so I'm in the process of doing like a branch switch, so I can still, still try to achieve my goals of becoming, a full sniper, not just
Wow.
that.
Okay, so you're doing the blue to green switch. Well, that's
Yes,
really.
sir.
I hope that goes well for you. And obviously, you've got a lot going on, but it's great that you're serving your country and clearly trying to go sniper. That's a tough route, but you've obviously shown your ability to be uh, willing to train hard, both in MMA and obviously in pre-sniper school. Maybe this answers the question itself because you were saying you like the toughness, you like the dedication to train. You are 1-1 taking on a guy who, while it's his debut, has a lot of high school wrestling experience. What thoughts have you given to saying yes to Tyler Dilbert? I was saying his name Dilbert. There's not an L in it, so I apologize. Tim, I even spelled it wrong in the YouTube video, so I apologize. I believe it's pronounced Dilbert because there's no L. But how long did you have to think about to say yes to him? Or are you at the point where you just want to stay active and fighting? What are your thoughts on him coming in from a great gym himself with the big wrestling background?
So I was at I believe it was a Christmas party when Hunter texted me because I told him I wanted to fight at the last
Right.
247 in December. And he hit me up. He was like, "Hey, we have this guy. It's Tyler." I think like 10 minutes after he texted it, I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll take it. Just let me talk to Kama, Ethan Hayes, and then
Right.
Josh, who's down at Black Cat. I train down here as well since I live in Morgantown."
Okay.
And I was like, "Hell yeah, man, I'll take it," because I wanted to get back in there. I didn't know he was a high school and collegiate wrestler. I think that's great though. In the amateur levels, like your record doesn't matter as much as the pros. Like I'd much rather get this experience now against a higher level wrestler than, it'd be my first pro fight and now I always have a loss on my record or always have a win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So,
That
but
makes perfect sense. I mean, I think that's Jonas Rubio, who's a coach and a former pro fighter. He's still a pro fighter. I just don't think he's fighting out of Stout, Zillionople location. He's been on the show years ago, and he always said that as an amateur, records are for DJs, that you're trying to develop skill set. And obviously, this is a great matchup. I mean, Tyler was on the show. You can watch the video, maybe you already have. And he said, he's a wrestler. He assumes you're more on the striking side of things. And so there you go. Now this is at novice rules. So the novice rules, you have to work within that rule set. If you haven't watched, then you probably have because you train with Cowboy Eddie. Cowboy Eddie's opponent, Hoot Lee, won his second amateur fight, which was a novice fight by ground and pound, even with the novice rule sets where you can't strike the head. Have you seen that fight in helping Eddie prepare? And what are your thoughts on being able to make ground and pound work for you if you get in that position, even without being able to strike to the head?
so I haven't seen any of Hootley's stuff. I don't have a problem with it or anything, but he wasn't just my main focus.
Sure,
The
of
ground
course.
pound stuff, so the last dude I finished, Andrew Evans, um, I feel like if you're just active, because you can't really hurt someone to the body while they're on the ground, right? So if you're active and they're not defending themselves, Chip's a really good referee and he's going to stop it, right? Like if you're not putting up, like if you're not trying to get back up after I knock you down, or you're just on the ground and just taking shots over and over for 2 minutes, he's going to stop it. So that's the goal. I mean, hit him in the face, knock him down, and then, ground and pound until Chip steps in again.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I brought up Hoop because of the connection to Cowboy Eddie, but you're absolutely right. You're focused on your own stuff, and you've had the experience of getting a TKO on the ground, so you already know how to do that. You mentioned Chip Snyder, who's a Marine himself. If you don't know, which you probably
Yes, sir.
do know that. So he's a great guy, great ref. And you're right. And for people that don't know, there's levels in how Chip or any good referee referees. And advanced amateur, is different. That's when you could do ground and pound. Novice amateur, no real ground and pound below above the collarbone. So the leash is a little tighter, right? If there's a pro with 15 pro fights, your main coach, the Death Star, a former UFC guy, he's going to have more room to work. I mean, that's just the way these are, and it's not because Chip or any good referee thinks that amateur fighters aren't good. It's that he's trying to protect them from themselves. There's a lot of skill set that people are still trying to learn. You've already had that ground and pound experience, and you made it work for yourself. I'm assuming you're aware that in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, if you get a win versus Tyler, which is no guarantee, of course, and you're going to get in there and do what you can. But if you get a win, you're then 2-1, which qualifies you to be able to fight advanced amateur. Have you thought about that rule set now that you're training with Cowboy, who of course has an advanced amateur fight coming up himself?
Yes, 100%. A lot of people look at the ground and pound aspect and be like, "Oh, I can't wait to do that." Dude, I just can't wait to kick people without shin guards because I'm so sick of I watched, I think it was a fight at either the last 247 or the one before that. Some dude, I think, ate like 10 or 15 leg kicks. And Calm always talks about if you don't check like 3 leg kicks without shin guards, it's over. Like you're limping for a week.
Yeah.
Like so I'm just excited to kick without shin guards. That's what I'm the best thing pumped out because I think I have a really solid calf kick, and I want to show it off. But with shin guards, it's a little hard. I just have to kick it more often. So
Yeah, no, that's a very sort of wise, mature, obviously being coached by Kama goes a long way in knowing that. But yeah, we've even seen the calf kick develop, maybe 6, 7 years ago in the UFC, or even sooner that there really wasn't a calf kick. People were always kicking the Muay Thai style, which is like above the knee to the outside or inside. Then obviously things develop and evolve. Yeah, I mean, I think the advanced amateur, the fact that it's a longer round is another big thing. 3 minutes is an extra total round over the length of fight, even more than a total round since you're currently doing 3-2s. That'll be 3-3s. So that's a big difference. The shin guards make a big difference. You brought it up from striking because you're, focused on the striking part. But submission guys have brought up the fact that it's clunkier on the ground, trying to move their legs around for submissions, particularly triangles or those type things. They can get in the way. They're a little harder to move. Versus, you get a nice leg that's sweaty and, it can slide in and do some other stuff. So certainly, and I've always said that for the audience, the lack of shin guards in their mind is the big visual difference. Lack
yeah,
of shin guards, it looks more like a pro fight, even though there's still some rule set difference. Yeah, so you're right. There's a lot difference there. You'll get there. When you get there, obviously, you've seen Craig Berry and now Cowboy Eddie adjust to the advanced amateur rules, and both, Craig already has a win under advanced amateur rule, and Cowboy's looking for that. What are your thoughts? You've talked about Tyler, your opponent, a little bit, but what are your thoughts as far as a prediction? Do you want to make a prediction? How do you see this fight going on the 24th, a week away from today, for 247 Fighting Championships?
yeah. So I respect Tyler as a person. I'm not one to really talk a bunch of crap or anything like that. But I think I can win this fight a lot more ways than he can. Also, he's a really good collegiate wrestler. He's only been training for a year-ish, is what I heard. So I think the only place he really has a little bit of advantage to me is wrestling, right? I've been doing jiu-jitsu a long time, almost 3 years now. I've been doing this for a long time, even though I'm a young guy. I strike with one of the best strikers in Pittsburgh. So if we do end up in a stand-up fight, I like my odds. I'd bet on myself 100 times out of 100. But of course, I still respect him. I mean, he's a good wrestler. I expect him to shoot. If he shoots, I'm probably going to submit him. If he stands up with me, it's going to be like my last fight. So
It's great that you can see yourself getting the win in multiple ways. And yeah, Tyler has, I think he was a 2 or 3-time, I think 3-time NAIA All-American in collegiate wrestling. NAIA used to be a much bigger thing. It's still around. It's great. That's a great honor for him. I told him that. I think that's wonderful. A lot of NAIA schools since maybe the 70s and 80s have become Division III. So that's kind of what NAIA has become for most schools, but NAIA still allows scholarships. So there's still scholarship athletes at the NAIA level. So hats off to him. He went to a Baptist college and yeah, three-time national qualifier. So I just think it's great. At the amateur level, you are taking on a tough opponent in the sense of the collegiate wrestler. He's taking on a tough opponent. Hats off to him on a guy that's 1-1 and he's 0-0. So I think this is what you also come from great gyms. He's coming from Gorilla House that has created some great fighters, including the only double champ that 247 has ever seen in Ethan the Wolverine Goss. And you're coming from obviously a legendary coach and a legendary gym. And I think that's what's exciting about 247. This will be your third fight for them. And people are starting to be able to see entire careers. Both all of your careers under 247, all of Craig Berry's, of course. Also, we mentioned Cowboy Eddie fighting for a title fight. He's developed from novice all the way up to a title fight now. So I really think that's why it's great for people to either come to the fight in person, get the pay-per-view, or even get the 247 live subscription where they pay a year and can watch all the pay-per-views as well as the data bank and all the history of all the fights. So what are your thoughts on people coming out to support you? You've got the academy behind you. There's going to be fans obviously for Cowboy Eddie there. You and Craig, do you feel like there's going to be a good fan support for you?
100%. So I grew up not sure if you know the area too well, but I grew up on the Robinson McKees Rocks line. So I grew up basically almost in downtown Pittsburgh. So that's why I keep fighting for 247, and I love the promotion. They're good dudes. But I sell the most tickets there because I grew up right in that town, and Murraysville is 30, 35 minutes away at most. So I think I'll have a good showing. I'll definitely have a good showing. I have a bunch of people from Florida coming up too, Miami. Yeah, so my uncle lives
coming
down
up from Miami.
Yeah, I know.
Welcome to that. If you're watching the show, welcome. Please subscribe so you can see more of Paul in the future. But what's the group coming up from Miami? How do you know them? Are they Marines or what's the connection there?
So my uncle, he grew up in this area too, but he became a vet, a veterinarian, and went to school down there. Did all this, and he lives down there, and he's a huge MMA fan. It's actually funny. He lives 25 minutes from American Top Team, and he works Robbie Lawler brings his dogs to him. So
that's
yeah,
great.
I know, it's insane.
Great.
He'll never let me meet Robbie though. I'd fangirl out. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, that's okay. That's a heck of a good guy to be a fan of. That Robbie Lawler fight versus Rory McDonald when he blew his blood through the split lip and then knocked him out in the next round in a fight that he was losing up until then. I mean, that's got to be one. I think that fight itself is in the UFC Hall of Fame, and then the fighters themselves haven't been, but I believe they put that in about a year ago. So, wow, what a cool connection. All right, so your uncle's coming up with some Miami people.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
Great.
So he's flying up Friday night, and then he's staying until Saturday and then leaving Sunday morning. So
that's
people from all over.
Yeah, I mean, that's shout out to your uncle and to everybody that's making the trip in, because we often think of fighters, 247's pulled fighters in from all over, some that have flown in with their team. So that's always, I think, exciting for fighters to come in. I mentioned Timbo Slice a lot, who actually, he feels like a hometown guy, but he's from Michigan, comes in all the time, has fought a bunch, I think 5 or 6 times for 247. But it's even as impressive for fans, like you're saying, for fans to come up in order to support you. So that's incredible. Can't wait. A week away from Brawl Burgh 20. Still an opportunity for people to buy tickets at 247fighting.com to give Paul Dotson credit when you check out. That's going to be absolutely incredible. What are your final thoughts? Week away from the fight. Appreciate you coming on and sharing all the fights, your fights. We've got debut versus debuts going on. We've got your fight. We've got all the way up to Cowboy Eddie for an amateur title, and then pro fights. What are your thoughts overall going into this event a week out? And we'll wrap up on that.
I'm pumped 100%. This is a stacked card. So, I mean, it's great because I think when Hunter announced, I think it was yesterday, I'm the 4th or 5th fight or something like that. And they spread it out because corners, I think me, Eddie, and Craig, all the same corners.
Right.
So I'm excited to watch them fight. I'm excited to watch Lucas fight too. Since I live in Morgantown, I train with a bunch of these WVU wrestlers since I took this fight. So I've heard a lot about Lucas. I've never met him in person. I heard he's a cool dude. But but I'm excited to see him fight too, 100%. So I'm just excited for the card overall. I'm excited to get back in there, dude. I miss it.
Well, that's great. It's great for you. I'm excited for your fight. Also, I often bring this up. Fighters you gain from watching other fights live, both
100%.
in supporting your friends and your teammates in the academy. Now, in this case, also rooting for Lucas, who's making his pro debut, who's been another great example. Made his amateur debut for 247, fought a bunch, ended up getting and winning a title shot for 247 as amateur, and then now is making his pro debut. And who knows what'll happen with Cowboy, but he's kind of on that path as well, as far as fighting for 247, going from an amateur to advanced amateur to title shot. And even though there have been fighters, including a fighter that Lucas fought out of Gorilla House in Cam, the Mole Rat Allgaier, he won the belt and defended it a couple times. So you don't have to go pro after you win the belt. But the big thing Hunter Homostack and Ryan Middleton and Jim Mooney, the legendary matchmaker, have said is they feel like when they're doing amateur title fights, and of course Cowboy's got this one, that means that person's ready if they win for pro. It doesn't mean they have to go pro. Somebody could stay and continue to develop. We've seen fighters do that, but that's kind of a cool thing. And Lucas out of Stout, who used to be a Division I wrestler for WU, and actually kind of recruited another Lucas, Luke Martin, up from originally WU. Then he won a D2 national title, which is just incredible if you know that story for the WU guys out of Fairmont State. And he's now training up at Stout, and hopefully we'll see him on a 247 card at some point in the future. So really, really exciting things. I appreciate you for coming on. I appreciate
thank you.
everyone. I appreciate everyone for watching this. What's your uncle's name? I want to give him a shout out, given the fact that he's coming all the way up from Miami.
Ron Shaw.
Uncle Ron, what incredible! So shout out to Uncle Ron and everybody coming up with your uncle to support you. Can't wait to see it. Brawl in the Burgh 20, Murraysville Sports Zone Arena. It's going to be incredible. Thanks so much, Paul Dotson with Luke Basin for MMA Fancast. Thank you for your service, and can't wait to see you in 7 days. Brawl in the Burgh 20. Thanks so much. See you then.
Thanks, sir.